Welcome to Flipping Out with your host, Paul Lizell, your leader in virtual wholesaling and investing in today's real estate market. Each week, he will be joined by some of the biggest players in the real estate space who will share their experiences, knowledge, insight, and tips for making it big in the industry. And now, here's your host, Paul Lizell.
Hello, everyone. In this episode of Flipping Out, I interview Michael Nyszczot, and he specializes in disposition in the sales side of real estate. So I hired him 5 years ago to work for me, and he sells the vast majority of my properties that aren't on the MLS. And he sells properties for other investors too, some local investors that we use, some students, some investors that are in other parts of the country that have trouble moving their properties that they're trying to wholesale. So sometimes people reach out to us and then we'll move them for them and just do it as a JV deal. But he talks about in this episode about some different off-market tactics to sell properties, which a lot of people are not aware of. We utilize the newspaper to sell, especially in our rural areas where we have an older population, or poor Wi-Fi, where people still utilize the newspaper to buy and sell homes, cars, whatever it may be. These are some off-market tactics that a lot of you out there who do direct mail marketing don't utilize enough. Most of you either have your buyers list from your RIA, your local RIA, or you mail out cash buyers, and we do that too. We mail out the cash buyers in different areas as well. But there's some other tactics to do it. You can scrape it off the MLS. A lot of ways to get cash buyers out there. And he gets in pretty good detail about how he does it and some of his marketing tactics, and even utilizing Facebook Marketplace right now, which I know a lot of people are doing, and it's starting to really gain some traction. And, we've sold some properties that way, and hopefully we'll continue to sell more. I expect it to be that way in the future. We talk about how technology has changed our business and how it allows me to do this, which I wouldn't have been able to do 15 or 20 years ago. Like I said, I got into remote wholesaling 10 years ago. So it's relatively new, but with all the apps out there and all the different resources, it makes it pretty easy to do. And Mike gets in pretty good detail about that. And he gets into detail about how it helps him on the disposition side as well. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. Hello, everyone. This is Paul Lizell with Flipping Out. And today, a good friend of mine, Michael Nyszczot, who works with me with REO Auction Academy. I want to introduce him right now. Say hi, Mike.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me, Paul.
Oh, absolutely. Love having you here. Now, Mike is going to bring a whole other dynamic to this here that a lot of people can relate to that are going to be listening out there, because Mike is a full-time actuary. Mike, give a little bit about your background as an actuary and then how you got started into real estate investing.
Sure. Yeah. I'm one of those few people that actually knew what an actuary was going to college. I went to Penn State and graduated with that degree in actuarial science. And so, what I do is my day job, it's a pretty successful, work for like a life insurance and annuity company. I'm one of those people that, I don't want to quit the rat race. I have a good job. I like what I'm doing, but I always wanted more in life. So I got into real estate investing back in 2006. So when I graduated college in 2003, I kind of lived at home for a year or two with mom and dad, saved up. And then I was like, well, I want to buy my own place. I don't want to rent. But I didn't want to live like paycheck to paycheck, and I wanted to still go out on vacations, go to the bars with my buddies, pay off student loans, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then my girlfriend, now wife, Tracy, she gave me a book to read called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which kind of like changed my mindset a little bit. I went from thinking like a W-2 employee to like a business owner or an investor type of person.
Right.
So I read it, and I was one of the people that actually took action and bought a 2-unit in Northeast Philly. I still own it to this day. And I actually owned that house, lived at home with my parents, and had both units rented out. I had to wait for one of the leases to expire to kind of move into the second floor. So that was 2006. So I got my taste in real estate, but I didn't really do anything after that. I kind of like put real estate investing on hold. I focused on finishing my actuarial exams. And then the only investing I did was like every other American, just like equities and bonds, your 401k and brokerage account. So that was the extent of my investing, putting kind of real estate investing on ice. Then in 2009, I finished up my actuarial exams and I had all this free time and I'm like, well, what do I do with it? I kind of went back into real estate investing again because my rental property was treating me well. You know, someone else's rent was paying most of my mortgage and giving me a better lifestyle to live. So I didn't know what to do in real estate because there's a ton of stuff, as you know, Paul, that you can make money in real estate investing.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So what I did basically was I joined like a local RIA for me and Paul, that's DIG. It's out in the Philadelphia area. And all I did was just network and learn and listen to different strategies of, you know, different people had successes in rentals versus rehabs versus wholesaling, et cetera. So I decided at that point in time in 2009, now we're in, is to do like wholesaling in the Philadelphia market. And I quickly realized wholesaling the traditional way, you're not really a real estate investor, you're a sales and marketing company. So I got really expert on the acquisition side and the sales side of like direct response marketing, online and offline marketing. You got to learn how to do sales and negotiating. And then I realized I got to basically create a business to do the deal volume, you know, I wanted to do. So I met my first business partner at the time, Eric, back in 2009 at a local RIA meeting. And he and I he was already doing it full time. He's done some like rehabs with his dad and some rental properties. So he and I like kind of partnered together and we decided to do wholesaling together for the most part in the Philadelphia marketplace. So, you know, I was kind of like the marketing guy. I ran the numbers, kind of did the business operations. He was our sales and boots on the ground guy, talking to home sellers and making offers. And that was kind of our business model from 09 to 12. We did a few rehabs, fix and flips in there, and we did a lease option and a few rentals, but you know, 90% of our business was wholesaling in the Philly. The struggle during that time period towards the end was I wasn't making the money I expected.
Right.
We made good money, but it was a grind, man. It was, I was expecting to, you know, work less eventually as we hired people because we had a team of people. We had some acquisition people. We had a kind of an office manager, call it, even though we all work remotely. And it wasn't what I was reading in the books that, you know, it meant out to be. It was like a pretty grinding for us. And then, you know, internally I started to struggle too, because like, I felt like a business failure. Yeah. You know, we were making money, but it wasn't what I thought I would make. And
right.
I would decrease my hours over time. I was just increasing them. And then, you know, I was asking the question, why don't I have the financial success that other people at the local RIA has? So, you know, at this time, things are going okay. We got steady deal flow, but we're spending thousands of dollars a month on marketing. We're spending hours a day driving around, talking to home sellers, trying to convince them why to go with us versus list with a real estate agent. And, you know, don't get me wrong, we made okay money. It was just, you know, again, grinding work. So, you know, at this point, you know, I guess the other hard part is that's just on the acquisition side. On the sales side is, okay, now I want my buyers to go visit the house. And these houses aren't vacant. They got people still living in them most of the time. So it's like trying to schedule, you know, all these potential buyers now to go to the house and make an offer. So it's kind of like two sides of the puzzles.
So many moving parts that you have to deal with that.
Exactly. And we eventually hit a plateau in the Philly market, me and Eric. You know, we were mailed to the same list as everyone else. You know, the pay-per-click stuff was getting more expensive, and, you know, competition in the Philly market was fierce.
Yes.
So we decided to expand, again, still using this traditional wholesale model, but, you know, we went to Pittsburgh and Lehigh Valley area. But I think we grew too fast and kind of stretched ourselves too thin. Yeah. And then at this point in time, I guess Eric had his kind of quarter life crisis, and he decided to pack up and move to California. So we kind of closed out the business, sold any properties that we still had together, and then kind of, you know, mutually agreed to, like, you know, go separate ways as he started a new chapter in his life.
Right.
So this is around end of 12. So I'm like, you know what, I got a good career, made some money at cashing out of everything. Me and my wife kind of started, you know, starting a family at that point. So, you know, had our first child during that time. Right. And then, Paul, I don't know if you realize, but 5 years ago this month in September 2014, you contacted me. And I still remember that Starbucks on Limekiln Pike. You know, we had a coffee, and you kind of, you know, pulled back the curtains and explained to me your business model,
which is totally different.
Yeah. I was like blown away. I'm like, so, you know, for those people that don't know, you know, Paul was buying REO auction houses, and REO stands for real estate owned. And so, you know, the bank already foreclosed on the house, and they were vacant for the most part that, you know, Paul was buying. So, you know, your business model at that coffee break, I like left like, man, this like fits everything.
Perfect
I want.
Match.
Yeah. It's like real estate investing without, like, it's like a transaction almost like trading a stock in your brokerage account. There's no like sellers to deal with or anything like that. It's you figure out what the Mayo is or max bid, stick to that number and just be persistent. And then you win a house and then you put a lockbox on it and then you sell it. There's no human interaction, I guess, it's just,
right.
You obviously you're dealing with title companies and the BPO agent maybe, and then on the sales side, negotiating with buyers, but all the headaches, the other headaches of traditional wholesaling that I experienced with before were gone with your model. So here we are 5 years later, I'm still having a blast doing stuff.
We're still doing it, still killing it with that. And I think I don't know whether we first met in 2010 or 2011, somewhere right in around there.
Yeah.
Through Dig. I think we first met through Dig. We met a bunch of times. I got to know you and Eric pretty well. And I was partner with a guy named Juan at that point. And then, 2013, I kind of went my separate ways. He and I did 2 different models we wanted to do. He was looking to get into some different stuff. I got into some different stuff. And then, at this point, I was wearing every hat, right? I was doing everything. I was doing a purchase, the marketing, the disposition. And I'm like, you know what? I was telling my wife, this is just too much. I need to find somebody who could do the dispositions for me, can handle the sellers, can handle that sales side. And so I started thinking, Mike is a sharp guy. For those who don't know, Mike is a very intelligent guy and super detail oriented and comes up with phenomenal systems. So I figured he'd be the perfect guy. Reached out, we negotiated a deal, boom. We hit the ground running right from jump. I mean, we had deals hammering right from jump, which was great.
Yeah, like 20 houses already. Like you're like, I was like, whoa.
But you hit it right away. We started selling them. I mean, we had some really, really big years. And as inventory has dropped, we're still getting them. They're just coming in a little different. And then we're looking for different ways to acquire more properties there. Yeah. So now it's been pretty good. It's been really good. So that whole different model totally rejuvenated you.
And I want to say one more thing. The thing I also liked about your model is my old model was if the Philly market went south, everyone went south with it, right? What I mean? There's pain points everywhere. Buyers flee. Whereas, Paul, when we started out in 15, you were doing this longer, obviously, but, we were more heavy in like your Indiana and Ohio's, and then that pivoted to like Jersey, PA, West Virginia's, and then the Carolinas. And now like some big states we have are like Oklahoma, Texas, Wyoming, out of all states that are popular for us right now. So that's one of the things every market has their cycles. We kind of pivot and go where the hotter markets are.
Yeah. And that's the key with virtual wholesaling. It's like, you don't have to, a lot of people want to just hit certain markets, right? Let the deals dictate your market, not let the market dictate your deals, right? Because the deal has got to drive the whole thing. If it's not a deal, it doesn't matter what market you're in, you're not moving that property, right?
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. So for thinking from a new investor perspective, like if somebody comes up to you and says, hey, Mike, I want to get into virtual wholesaling, what would you recommend I do? Like what direction, what should I do? What should I look at? Where should I start?
Yeah. Yeah. So, the easiest is pick an auction site. It's phase one almost, right? It's almost too basic, but like there's a ton of auction sites out there like auction.com, Zoom, Hudson and Marshall, the list goes on. You can easily name 10. And then just pick one to start with, something easy, and then create an account and then get yourself familiar with the website, what they have to offer. And then if you want to be comfortable and stick to your state or hometown, pick Texas if you're from Texas and just look at the houses on the market on that auction site in Texas, and then, run some numbers. What are the high comps? What are the low comps? The tools out there, you don't need MLS. The comp tools improved with technology the last several years. So there's plenty of sites that we use, not just Zillow. Some are paid for, some are free, that we kind of, bounce different low and high comps off of. And then, once you get comfortable, it's just like practice, like anything else, just start doing it. Start bidding on some properties. And then the key is to be persistent. You're not going to, I don't want to say you're not, but most of the time when you bid on your first property, you're not going to win it right away. Right.
Yep.
Unless you're Trey. But basically, but for the most part, let's just say your maximum allowable offers 50. So your max bid is 50K. But, no one else is bidding on it. And at the end of the auction, you're at 50K. You're like, all right, I want a house. You actually did it for the most part, because the reserve is probably like 75,000. Now, the name of the game there is don't stop and give up on that house. When it comes back a week later, bid on it again, stick to your numbers. Now, they might come back, saying, hey, you're the only bidder, but you didn't meet our max reserve or reserve, would you take 75? And then just say no, comes back again. You're going to start seeing that number go from 75 to 70. Still say no, and then it's going to continue to creep down up until where they just take your offer of 50. So it's being persistent is key. And you know, you just, and I don't know if you had other episodes on it already, but you know, that's one of the names of the games in the REO auction market.
That is it. That is for sure. And he was referring to Trey, who is one of our star pupils right now, who joined about a month and a half, 2 months ago. He's already got 3 deals, two bought and sold, 4 deals, right?
Yeah.
2 bought and sold, 1 under contract. I mean, he's killing it. And like I said, every once in a while you get one. He might have caught that the right auction cycle, right?
Yeah.
That might have been in cycle 6 or 7, some of those properties he was getting, and he just bids on them, is getting them right away. It's going to happen. We have other students who are a little more conservative and they get a few less deals and stuff. And where Trey has just opened himself up to every market like we do. He is truly following our model, where some of the other students are still looking like in their market, which I get, right? Like you said, if you want to start out and you're in Texas, looking at Texas market, drive to the place, you know, then you can actually feel it, touch it, see it, get comfortable with it. And then just understand that, you know, I know this is another market. It's in Oklahoma, this other property, but it's got some of the same intangibles. And you could look at, you can look at comps at everything online, and you need everything, and you can contact the agent, the realtor, and get information on the property. But no, that was key. That was key. But what do you think holds back most new investors? Is there something, do you see something in particular, or is it many different things that hold people back?
Yeah, there's a few things, right? Also, some common things that I get is, questions like, they're asking about like asset protection. I'm like, well, how many deals have you done? 0.
Right.
Well, why don't you get some assets first and worry about asset protection later? It's like they want to study the world before, you actually even do a deal. Why don't you do the first deal in your name and then worry about whether it's an LLC or S corp? Talk to your tax professional to figure that stuff out. I'm not going to have that answer.
Right.
And another one is just, in my personal life and business life, I just follow Nike's principle. Just do it. Learn enough, network with the right people, get a coach if you need to be extra motivated, and then, just start real estate investing with just enough information, and then continue to learn as you go. We all fail. I fail at stuff still. You fail at stuff still. And
totally.
The key is to just learn from it and just don't quit and just keep going. So that's another thing. Some people try to be perfect, I guess, in their responses. Like they have to know the answer for every single thing. And that's not how life works, because you'll never have the answers to everything.
No.
And the other one, probably the third one I see the biggest, I call it analysis paralysis.
Oh yeah. We see that a lot.
Yeah. They just won't be able to pull the trigger on, or they kind of, so for instance, there's a lot of ways to make money in real estate. And they might start out with, I want to do wholesaling. And then immediately, what about rentals or flips? I've made money in wholesaling, rentals, lease options, renovate and resells, private lending, transactional funding, and notes. I didn't do it all overnight. It just comes with over time. They're busy reading these forums and listening to podcasts and hearing all these different things. I would just recommend saying, pick one that makes sense for you day one, be laser focused and just worry about that and implement on that. And then everything else is just noise. And then, once you master that one or done a few deals that way, maybe introduce like another way to make money or in real estate.
No, totally. And then really the most important, I think, let the deal dictate your disposition method. So ours is always wholesale, right? Okay, this didn't work in wholesale, but we picked this thing up for $15,000. We could sell to somebody for $35,000 with owner financing, maybe get 10 or 15 down, and then hold that note and then get paid over years, which we've done several of. That we've done.
I just cashed my mailbox money today, Paul.
It's the best, man. It is the best. We love that model. We'll continue to keep on doing those as well.
Yeah.
Rental's always another option. We got a lot of guys that, all right, didn't work that way. It's really tight. I'll fix and flip the property, right? And we've had them where we've had to do those as well.
Yeah.
So you kind of let the deal dictate it. That's always.
We're rehabbing the one in Wyoming and Moorcroft right now.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And that's going to be more of a wholesale one. Just get a mortgageable and move it. And that's what we recommend, for anybody who's buying out of state. Full-fledged rehab can be really tough. It's better off just getting the paint, carpet, doing the basics, make it mortgageable, make it FHA mortgageable, and then move it again, right? Just do that quick. Now you do have that 90-day seasoning period, but it's usually going to take a few days for you to get that rehab done anyway, say 30, 40 days. And then it's going to sit on the market, and then the offers will start rolling in, hopefully around that 90-day window at that point.
I just drove by over the weekend. I went to Penn State, picked up my father-in-law. We went to Lake Winona. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Like 5 years ago? Yeah, yep. I drove by that house. I was like, memory lane.
Yeah, no, that was a good one. We did pretty well with that one. And that was
a 30-day spread with like $2,000 of rehab work in there.
Yeah. And those are great ones. We love those. We're going to hopefully continue to get more of those over down the road. But I want to talk, next question for you. And this is a big one. And obviously we utilize all these things. how has technology changed to make virtual wholesaling easier? Like in your eyes, what are the biggest things you saw that changed?
Yeah, I could spit off like top five things easily for you here. So, I mean, technology made real estate investing the last few years super efficient. I'm going to give different examples here. One is I got my one rental property recently. Again, it's only a 25, 30-minute drive, but I didn't visit it. I decided I wanted to redo the half bath and flooring in a new room. I knew my measurements already from the building. So I went online to Lowe's or Home Depot, actually, in this case, ordered the flooring, toilets, etc. Had my contractor pick them up. They took pictures when they were done, and I paid them. Never visited the job or anything like that. It's that way. And if I'm doing this with a local property where some people will be forced to drive to check on it, right, why waste that hour of your time or 2 hours of your time a day to do that? Yes. So with technology, whether it's a remote rehab, that's like something minor that we were just talking about, just have your contractors take, FaceTimes daily of it or pictures of it if it's just not like a 2-day job, if you want progress updates along the way. So that's just one example from managing contractors remotely. Yeah. Another one I would say is comps online have gotten tremendously better over the last few years. So you don't need MLS to get good after repair values, low comps. There's tons of tools out there has a lot of good public data information. So that benefited you and I in our virtual wholesaling model.
Totally.
The big one is DocuSign. I mean, how easy are sending documents? Before you print it out, handwrite it in, scan it back, email it. Now it's just like upload your PDF, tag it where you have to sign, and 2 seconds later you're done. So that's just from an admin side. I think that's a huge technology one there.
It really is.
And then the other one, we're using Zoom for this podcast. Yeah. I use it as a screen recording thing for my virtual assistant. So, one of the things we didn't talk about earlier is like you and I use VAs and we just document everything we do. Right. So we actually work less, and they, a lot of the stuff we do is repetitive from an REO auction perspective. Mm-hmm. So we, on the disposition side, I outsource basically everything to a virtual assistant just by using recording screen documentation. Whereas, 10 years ago, that technology wasn't that great or there yet.
Yeah, no, totally. Technology has changed everything with that. And then that leads me into the next question then too here. How, with Amazon looking to get into real estate, with Zillow getting into real estate here involved, how do you think that's going to change the future of real estate, if it changes anything at all? It probably won't affect mom and pop investors as much, but what do you think it's going to do for real estate?
Are you talking specifically Zillow or just any technology?
Zillow and Amazon, all those technologies, the big techs wanting to get in there.
Yeah. I think a cool technology thing that could really help real estate investing is I recently went to, this was last year, a blockchain technology event with IBM. And again, it was in a different industry, but I think a great use case would be for real estate investing. Right now, title companies, right, they, pull public records and it takes weeks to close sometimes a house. Right. But, what blockchain basically does is, most people have heard of it, and it's just, they think Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, but, it's not cryptocurrencies or Bitcoins that are going to disrupt real estate. It's basically the blockchain technology that enables Bitcoins to operate. Yes. So the blockchain, the idea is that it could securely and transparently kind of track transaction histories. So for public records like real estate, transactions, this is kind of a perfect solution potentially.
Oh, it is.
The primary purpose for title companies to check, title histories and record transactions. But what if this process kind of becomes completely automated and secured by a blockchain technology? There might always be some human element, but think of it, Paul, when we have cash transactions, why would it have to take 2 weeks where we can have it close that day using a technology like that could quickly check if the title's clean or not?
That is so key, that blockchain technology. And look, I love cryptocurrency, and I talk about cryptocurrency in this podcast here, but that blockchain technology is going to change everything in the world. It's going to be healthcare records, right? Your healthcare records are going to be downloaded onto the blockchain. It's going to be easy for doctors to pull that. It's unhackable. You can't hack this thing. It's not hacking like you're hacking in the internet. And that's one of the best things about it. All the information is out there. And let's say there's 10, 20,000 computers on us. They all have to agree on this information. Otherwise it's spit out, right? It's not, it's the blockchain. That's the safety of it. So I think within the next 5 to 10 years, all the counties are going to have all the deed recording, mortgage recording, all that kind of info on the blockchain. It's going to make things so easy for the title companies, almost might render title companies obsolete. We'll see. They're going to be there to an extent because they still have to do the pricing and figure out all these different costs and tax certs and all that. But it is going to change everything for sure in a lot of different industries. That is the future blockchain technology.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. Now we're going to get into some of the ninja tactics you use, Mike, for selling these properties, because there's things that, your people that do direct mail, right? They're generally doing direct mail in their market, right? So they have their buyers list, and I don't know what they're doing to try to get more buyers. Maybe they just have, opt-in pages, that kind of thing. But we use, and you've really gotten to some really neat ways to sell these properties, especially in rural areas. Why don't you get into some of the disposition methods you use?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just begin with the basics of marketing for everyone on the call. And, there's kind of 5 M's of marketing, I call it. It's market, message, media, money, and then call it multiple hits in months. So market is your house best for a landlord, like a buy and hold person, or a rehabber, someone to look at to fix it and resell it? Or is it a non-investor, like a retail buyer? The second M is message. You want to tell your message to whatever your market is. So for example, if your house is best for landlords, like buy and hold investors, show them some cash flow analysis in a message. And then, maybe they'll actually pick up the phone and call you like, hey, this is a deal. It cash flows a lot, instead of just putting up a price up there for them to figure out.
Yeah.
Media, this is, I'll get into this one deeper actually for you. But this is like, is it, direct mail, like you said, newspapers, cold calling people. That stuff varies by market. Some of it works in all markets and some doesn't in so much. And then, money is, everyone needs a budget, and you should track your results. Like, is certain advertisements not working? Well, then don't use them in that area and waste your money if they cost money. And then the last M is multiple hits in months. That's just a fancy way of saying, like, be persistent. Just don't mail to your cash buyers once, mail to them 3 times. That's what I do when we're selling a property. So that's kind of like the high level overview of marketing, like 5 M's. So, and I use these things basically where you and I will go into cold markets all the time where we have 0 buyers. And we sell houses sometimes double close, like before we even purchase it, with a 0 people on our buyers list, So I'll kind of show you some of the media we do, and I got 2 groups here. It's like offline and online. Mm-hmm. I'll cover some offline stuff that I do first. So, the easiest one is just call real estate investors in your current database if it's a place you're already marketed to. Another one is you could have your virtual assistant, or you do it, just find real estate investors in a new market. So go through Craigslist in the real estate wanted section, Google, we buy houses, whatever city you're looking in, and then, email them, and I usually follow up with a phone call a week later, because not everyone responds to email. People respond to different technologies.
Yes.
Sure. Another great source is join a local RIA. And it sounds weird, but one of the things I do is, like, for example, we sold a Pittsburgh area house before like this. I went to like a local, I think it's called Acres out in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
They have newsletters from previous newsletters online. You download one, email all the board members, or call them if there's the phone numbers only, and then go through the vendors. Like, I've reached out and talked to hard money lenders saying like, hey, I got a property in this city. I think maybe one of your clients would be interested, and they'll pitch it for you. And I've gotten people to visit houses that way. So, think a little bit differently from that perspective.
And that's something that really almost no other investors, I don't think, do that out there. Not enough, not to an extent that you're doing it here. I mean, and you get a lot of buyers from doing those things.
Yeah. I mean, these are legit people. They're advertising. It's not an easy, like, oh, let me check Facebook. I mean, not everyone uses social media. These are people actually paying money to be in a newsletter. Contact them.
No, totally.
Another one, people think this technology it's not even technology. It's
right.
Newspaper.
Where you're going. Yes. That's the best, man.
It might be our top, especially where we're buying. We're calling it, some of the areas are on the rural side, but people still read newspapers. We sold a handful of houses this year using newspapers, and they work great. And it's just not, don't just like post a classified ad in there. Actually, like, go to the for rent section, and I'll call up the people like with houses for rent. Sometimes they're actually a landlord and they might want to add to their real estate portfolio. So we've gotten added buyers that way, or even sold houses that way. So, newspapers, it's a dual thing, posting your ad and then contacting like a real estate wanted or for rent ads.
Yeah. That's my favorite ninja tactic I think you use, because, a lot of these places
newspapers anymore.
I know nobody thinks about that, right? And we sell quite a bit that way. And think about it. Some of these rural areas, you might not have great Wi-Fi. So you might not have a whole lot of internet access. You have older population. The older population, my father-in-law my wife still has to pick him up the Philadelphia Inquirer every single day that he's not in the area, so he can get it. I think he just wants a crossword. Honestly, God, it's a $3 a crossword puzzle every single day. But they still do read the newspaper, and that's why it's important. Your older population is still going to do that. They don't have our mindset yet.
Exactly.
So
yeah. So and another one is, purchase mailing lists. So if your target market is landlords, let's just say, buy an absentee owners list from a marketing list. And, these are people, I only market people with like 2+ properties. So they're landlords. And, that we've gotten great ways to like increase our buyers list that way or sell houses that way. So, purchasing different lists is a great option. And I usually just send them a 3-step postcard campaign. You could do letters, figure out what works best for you. But I just send postcards for the most part right now. Yeah. And then, another one is you could list with a real estate agent, for wholesale, especially these make sense. But, most of ours, Paul, we sell the for sale by owner route. And if that's not working, hey, let's contact a local realtor and list with them as well. But some of the things that we do sometimes is kind of have a contingency clause in there where we bring the buyer, we pay him, call it $500. Flat fee to kind of walk away for their time. Yeah. So negotiate that way you're minimizing, commission costs down the road. And then, I've also reached out to real estate agents with buyers. So, once, you owned a property, Paul and I take them all down. So we're not assigning contracts from REO auctions. So we'll then contact potential buyers agents saying like, hey, we'll pay 3% to you. Do you have anyone interested in your market looking at that? So I usually have my VA scrape a bunch of local realtor offices in that area to get their contact information, and we'll send an email blast to them. Wholesalers, we use them here and there, 10% of them are good, call it.
Yeah.
So we don't, you and I, we don't lock up our properties with a wholesaler's contract. If we do, we kind of like wait until they actually find a buyer, and then we'll figure out, what a fee to pay them. But I'd recommend not locking it up. If you do, put it like a heavy earnest money deposit due in a few days and see if they actually do it, is my recommendation. And then, I'm just going to say this, even though it's not immediate, just follow-up's key. Refresh your online posts. Don't just send one mailing. When your newspaper ad expires in 2 weeks, send it up again. So, follow up and be persistent. So that's kind of like all the offline media that I use. Now I'll just cover the online media.
Right. Yep.
So that's just like half the equation.
Yeah.
We have our own website. It was easier when I was in the Philly market because I could focus on like the SEO just in the Philly market, or just like a Pittsburgh market or Lehigh Valley. Now that we're nationwide, it's hard to do that, but we get some leads from there on our website. And then, once you own it, you post a for sale by owner ad on Zillow, Trulia, all those kind of websites. You'll get calls from there. They're pretty good. But the best online media for me is actually Craigslist, and it's free.
Yes.
Believe it or not, it's, we sell houses probably the most through Craigslist probably. Then newspapers up there as well and direct mail. But, Craigslist is a great source and it's free. Facebook.
Most underrated source. So many investors look at it, and some people sometimes forget about it, but it is still the best way to dispose of properties for sure, because you have people scouring it every day looking for deals. Yep.
Facebook Marketplace is gaining traction. The only thing I don't like about that, like when I do Craigslist, my call to action is to call me, so I don't have to deal with BS emails. Like I know if you're gonna pick up the phone, you're gonna be serious.
You're serious, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Facebook Marketplace, I got to do the messaging thing, and like a lot of time they're tire kickers more. It's like they're looking for rent to owns or owner financing.
Mm-hmm.
If it's an avenue we want to explore, I could contact them later. But we're, like you said earlier, we're looking to do a cash sale first, and then plan B would be like a rental or an owner finance exit strategy. But we've sold houses on Facebook Marketplace. That's gaining traction. And then if you got social media, posts on all your social media posts. And again, join online, real estate forums. So like a Bigger Pockets, if you're a pro member, you could post it there. That's a good example. We sold one that way, so it was worth my annual fee. Not too much traction there, but it made it worth it. And then obviously if you have an in-house email list, email your buyers list first. And then I actually have 2 lists. I have one from our House Deals America site. So these are people I most likely haven't talked to. They just kind of signed up with us. And I kind of have like a VIP buyers list where I know these people are serious. We've talked to them, you and I, and they're the first ones I'll actually email and call.
Yeah, first ones you hit with an offer, let them know the property's out there.
Yep. So I mean that should be about most of them. There's other things I do, but that covers the bulk of the stuff.
No, that's great. Now I'm gonna transition into what our new project we kind of started here. We had initial really quick success with it, and there's always going to be bumps. What's going on here too, but our MLS system, right? And how we're doing that. Just kind of break into how little we actually do with it.
Yeah. So first I'll kind of start the why. So there's ebbs and flows in the REO auction cycle, right? It's really busy, call it like October to February. And then in the summer months, it kind of slows down a little bit. So to supplement that slow period, me and Paul were talking, we're sitting down, and then we kind of planned out what we call like our MLS Virtual Assistant model, call it. I mean, we don't do anything now after building it. Right. And what essentially we did there is, Paul has access to the local MLS. So we picked the counties we wanted to go in, and we have two lists. One's an REO list, and we look at REO houses over a certain criteria, like 90 days or longer. And then we also have a list called like our fixer-upper list. So it's like your estate properties, houses that aren't REOs that need work. And basically, you and I documented everything using kind of Zoom videos and send it to our VA, where once a month I'll pull a new list of houses, and she'll determine the ARV, and the Excel spreadsheet will actually tell her the maximum allowable kind of offer, the initial offer to make. From there, she then creates a agreement of sale, does all the DocuSign signatures for us, and then takes our proof of funds letter with the signed agreement of sale and emails it to the listing agent and copies you and I on it. And we started this, I think it was in May, right? And then we got on our first cycle, I think it was like 30 some houses. We got one under contract. I think it was for 135, and then we sold it for like 150. So a 15-pay spread. Yep. And I think it was like a double close basically.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. It was in the one in Shanksville, Montgomery County. So again, me and Paul take away the time to actually build this thing out, was just a few hours. We spend like 15 minutes a month on this, maybe.
At the most, yeah.
Making sure these numbers make sense when the realtor comes back to us with the counter, essentially.
Yeah. And, we've had a couple that we've had under contract. We thought they might be deals. And this is with anything like a direct mail to, and you find out, okay, they aren't that great of deals. This has got an issue here. This is on a main road, and it's going to be a real tough resale on this one, unless you're just buying and holding. So there's going to be bumps and bruises with that one. But the whole point is, it's just a whole other way for you to acquire properties. Yeah. It doesn't cost anything, right? Essentially other than the virtual assistant that we're using, but hell, she just paid for herself in one deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Herself in a year, one deal with finding that. And we're going to have several more of the one I'm getting over the course of the year through this system. So it's another great system. Mike, where can people find out more information on that and how to sign up and become, an investor with us? What website? Yeah. So if you want to buy some of our properties, the website is housedealsamerica.com. That's HOUSEDEALS America.com. And then on there, go to our house tab or house deals tab, and then you'll see our current inventory for sale. And then on the right, you could kind of fill in your name, email, and what states do you buy in. And then you'll only be sent states that you purchase in. So if you buy in Florida, you won't be sent PA deals. So you don't spam me with it, stuff that's outside your market. Yep. And if they want to get into the educational side and learn a little bit about that, where can they contact us? Yep. So our educational website is www.reoauctionacademy.com. Again, that's reoauctionacademy.com. We could teach them anything on that too, not just the REO model, but look, we've done the direct mail. Both you and I have done the direct mail method. We still know how to do that. Yeah. So if people want to kind of mix and blend and want to have that, that's something we can obviously help them with as well. Absolutely. Another question for you. What book, and it might be the same as my favorite book, that Rich Dad, what book inspired you the most, or other book besides Rich Dad? Yeah. So like I said earlier, Rich Dad kind of changed my mindset to think not from like a work hard and, get a pension at the end of the day, more entrepreneur mindset, open the curtains there. But, from we mentioned, marketing is a key piece in any business. So if you want to learn direct response marketing, a book I recommend is there's two, it's the Ultimate Sales Letter and the Ultimate Marketing Plan by Dan Kennedy. Those are two great books that I've learned a lot of my marketing from. And another great book on just sales is by Chet Holmes. It's called The Ultimate Sales Machine. Again, another great book as well that they were kind of formed the foundation 10 years ago for me when I was taking off and doing all this, like you said, thousands of postcards a month type of thing with the traditional wholesale model. But that, that applies to any business. It totally does. And Mike, you do this part-time. You want to tell people how many hours a week you do with your full-time job as compared to this, your part-time fun job? Yeah. So
real estate investing is, some people try to get out of their rat race and just, quit their job because they hate it. I actually got, I got a nice setup and make good living in my current day job, and I love it. But, everyone wants more. So, I remember back in 2007, 8, 9, where a lot of people lost jobs. And the reason I kind of got into real estate was to kind of have like a plan B, like a supplemental income. I like having 2 6-figure incomes, basically. You know what I mean? So I got like a day job that, pays well, and then real estate's on the side that, I could, quit my day jobs eventually, and maybe that's something in the future. But right now I like what I'm doing. I have no intent to do that. And working on the side with you, I mean, I systematize everything. So my VA works for me 10 hours a week. You know what I mean? I only probably put in an hour a night type of thing. So, you do the math on that. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good living to kind of like up your lifestyle and maybe even retire early with this.
Yeah, no, that could be an inspiration for somebody who loves their job but does want to create some extra income. Look, you can make
students like that where they work, they own like their own business called a funeral home, but they use real estate to supplemental on the side for early retirement or whatever that may be.
Yeah, and something to teach your kids. It's just like, if you don't like the stock market or don't want to get into the stock market or just want to have something that's even more diverse, real estate's a great way to do it. And you can do this part-time and make 6 figures a year doing this part-time. You could just do 5 or 10 deals a year and, and you're doing pretty well.
Exactly.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate it, Mike. Thank you so much for your time.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
You got it. And we'll have show notes here. If anybody wants to be able to reach Mike and has any questions for him, we'll be able to get you in touch with him. But hope you enjoyed it. It's another great episode of Flipping Out. Signing off.
You've been listening to Flipping Out with Paul Lizell, the #1 success platform for virtual wholesalers. Visit our website, thevirtualinvestor.co, for more information about how you can leverage virtual wholesaling to take control of your time, enjoy financial freedom, and live life the way you've always wanted to. Join us again next time for another informative discussion right at your fingertips.